Paz Minko has been on the front foot since day one, arguing the extensions are vital for the company's survival and an asset to the environment. After 4 days of submissions, the extensions have been given support from the EPA, health authorities and provisional backing by Lake Macquarie Council. Today, the Department of Planning joined the chorus of support. An inspection of the plant earlier this week highlighted the environmental advantages of the project. With acclaimed sulphur and lead emissions will be reduced, while zinc production would increase from 90,000 to 110,000 tonnes. But some residents remain sceptical of a company that has contributed to pollution in the area for nearly a century.
Really our major concern is for the waterways of Cockle Creek and Lake Macquarie, but of course it's such a big issue that it draws in the effects on the surrounding communities.
The inquiry will now adjourn for 2 months, with final submissions to be made in March. The Commissioner then has 60 days to prepare his final report for the Minister for Planning, who should make his final decision on the expansion by the middle of the year. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Built in the mid-60s, Dudley Nursing Home is in need of an urgent update. The priorities include new bathroom and toilet facilities and more separate bedrooms.
I think it's just really the age of the building and the nature and the design of the building. Modern nursing home wouldn't be built with that design and that layout.
Following lengthy negotiations with the Hunter Area Health Service, Frank Whidden Masonic Homes was to take over the licence from next month and begin a multi-million-dollar refurbishment. But the deal has been dumped.
Well, unfortunately, Frank Whidden Masonic Homes have advised us that they won't be in a position to raise enough capital to build a new nursing home in the time period that we'd like to see, and so with great reluctance they've advised us that they can't pursue the program.
While the Hunter Area Health Service says it's talking with other interested parties, the move has further delayed plans.
Well, we were hoping that there'd be a new nursing home for those residents within the next 5 years. Obviously things have slipped by a couple of months, but I'm still hopeful we'll achieve that.
Meanwhile, there was celebrations at Walls End Nursing Home today for one of their oldest residents. William Gray turns 100 on Sunday. His secret to old age? Hard work, no drinking and no smoking, but the centenarian does admit to an occasional flutter on the horses.
While applauding the recent state government move to place stringent controls on developments in koala habitat, the Society says it will do nothing to save many of the marsupials in Port Stephens Shire.
We really want to see the mining stopped until the whole situation can be sorted out. We're just losing far too many koalas and far too much habitat.
It's this land owned by Hunter Water that's in the spotlight. Much of it has been mined. Rehabilitation has left large open spaces which make koalas easy pickings for feral dogs. Now RZ Mines, a Japanese-owned company that has operated in the region for 20 years, wants permission to remine. The Society says that will destroy remaining habitat and leave the land uninhabitable for koalas for at least 50 years. The Society claims it will also endanger the National Parks and Wildlife Service's monitoring program. The company was not available for comment.
For the last 5 years, Manly has made the trip north for their opening hit out of the season and once again fielded a formidable lineup, a mark of respect for the Scorpions. The scrum-based trio of Lyons, Tuvey and Hasler were all on show along with two of the game's toughest forwards, David Gillespie and Mark Carroll. but it was Manly's talented backline that opened the scoring, winger Craig Hancock finishing a Seagulls move which began from deep in their own territory. That sparked the Manly side, with 5 further tries before half-time, giving them a 32-0 lead, the visitors on their way to a comfortable victory. Meantime, a crowd of 10,000 turned out to see Sydney's Kim Ashkenazi win the opening round of the Peter Jackson Supercross Masters last night. The defending champ led all the way in the 20-lap final, with West Wall's End rookie Craig Anderson finishing 5th after winning the popular Expression session. Newcastle's Chad Reed was the youngest winner on the night, while Thornton's Danny Ham battled an arm injury to finish 3rd in the Senior 125 final. Hockey's Shelley Andrews has already been named Lake Macquarie's Sportsperson of the Year after she was part of Australia's World Cup winning hockey team in Ireland. Andrews was the leading goal scorer in the World Championships and was also part of the national team that won the Champions Trophy in Amsterdam, the Three Nations tournament in South Africa and the Five Nations title in Argentina. Lawn bowler Cameron Curtis also captured a world crown in 1994. The Park Beach Club Coffs Harbour member teamed with Ian Schuback in England to take out the world indoor pairs. He was then selected in the Commonwealth Games team for Victoria, Canada, where with Rex Johnston he won the pairs gold medal. Also winning gold in Canada and putting the tiny Central Coast town of Tascott on the map, Stephen Dewick. The 17-year-old was the find of the Games for the Australian swimming team, winning a silver medal in the men's 100 metres backstroke. He then smashed the Commonwealth record in the opening 100 metres of the 4x100 metre medley relay, helping Australia to yet another gold medal. The NBN St George Bank Sports Star of the Year will be broadcast live from NBN Studios at 8:30 this Saturday night.
It was a gala weekend, a sailing challenge boasting 3 of the round-the-world BOC yachts, a race that included everything from tiger moths to walkers and four-wheeled transport, live music, a carnival atmosphere and a real-life local hero. Alan insists he's been blown away by the support shown to him and he's not sure what the fuss is about.
It's really encouraging for me to know so many people are interested and excited about it, because that's what we wanted to achieve. We said we can provide a vehicle to promote the region and the businesses that want to be sponsors, and we think that the people can feel good about it.
Meanwhile, Newcastle's Lord Mayor is overjoyed at the weekend's success. Local business houses largely organised the events and donated everything from food and security to portaloos and publicity.
One of the things we're about doing is seeing that we have things in Newcastle during holiday times that give our citizens an opportunity to stay in Newcastle and enjoy the facilities we have here.
While the figures have yet to be tallied, it's thought $30,000 has been raised to help Alan's campaign.
If we want to do it again, I think there might be room for it, but we'll enter into those discussions later in the year.
Racing resumes on the 3rd leg of the BOC Challenge in 12 days.
Members of the international BOC around the world yacht race fleet in Newcastle last weekend were bowled over by the city's welcome to its lone yachtsman Alan Neighbour.
I've been involved in the BOC for about 12 years now, following the 86 race and competing in the 1990 race, and I've never seen such support for a single entry in the event.
Another British yachtsman, Niall Vaughan, described his reception in Sydney, where the fleet is based, during its Australian stopover, as lukewarm compared with Newcastle's. He made a special presentation of appreciation to Lord Mayor John McNaughton.
Niall Vaughan gave me the pennant that he was supposed to give to the Lord Mayor of Sydney because we turn on a better welcome for them.
Race organisers have also approached Council to consider hosting a leg of the event in 4 years' time. It wouldn't be the first time a smaller city has attracted the limelight from one of the world's better-known ports.
The airport was a little bit cocksure and believed that they couldn't lose it and didn't do too much about it, and Charleston won the bid, and they're saying it's been outstandingly successful for them in commercial terms, in terms of tourism and promotion of their city.
The ALP has promised to reserve Stockton Bight as one of 22 new national parks it would create in its first year of government. Today, Environment spokeswoman Pam Allen inspected the giant sand dune system that sets it apart.
Well, I think what we're seeing is an absolutely unique area of wilderness on the New South Wales coastline. It's an area that's special because it's so close to a major population centre in the Hunter region, but it's also an area that simply we don't have anywhere else in this state.
Having the dunes and neighbouring woodland set aside will be no easy task, sand mining one of the key issues to be resolved. Pam Allen says Labor has recognised the range of competing land uses.
And I think the Labor government would be very keen as an early priority to enter into negotiations with those various groups and industries to ensure that we can create a national park which is compatible with their interests as well.
What a Labor government won't allow, though, is urban expansion impacting on the fragile Bight ecosystem. The Fern Bay residential development, for example, one that won't proceed.
On the calendar of the Macedonian Orthodox Church, today is the feast celebrating the baptism of St John. To mark the occasion, hundreds of the faithful line the cliffs and steps above the bogey hole for the annual Blessing of the Waters. The focus of attention, 25 young single males prepared to brave the cool conditions to dive for a crucifix tossed into the waters.
Represents the person who's gonna catches the cross. It's more like a best man of the community and for the whole year.
It's a tradition dating back centuries. After blessing the icon and a few false starts, the crucifix was lobbed into the centre of the popular swimming spot, the cross disappearing in a malaise of frantic arms and legs. Seconds later, the victor emerged, the prize held triumphantly aloft. Such is the honour attached to winning the icon. He was carried to the water's edge on the shoulders of the other divers.
Well, I've been going for about the last 5 years and I was hoping to get it this year, so I did.
For his efforts, Slatko will have the honour of going door to door among the Macedonian community for the next 3 days, offering the crucifix's blessing and collecting donations for the church. Phil Hind, NBN News. Captain Australia, or 20-year-old Michael Vandeleur to his friends, is literally a career-high flyer. He's Australia's only human cannonball and one of only 7 flesh and blood bullets in the world. The last time his like was seen in this country was 27 years ago. But how does one decide to make a living as human cannon fodder?
I seen it done over in the States about 5 or 6 years ago, and I wanted to do it then. And we were going to hire some Americans to come out and do it. And they backed out at the last minute, so we thought, we'll go ahead and build our own.
Even before Michael climbed into the 9-metre-long muzzle for the first time, he'd spent 6 months with a trampoline coach learning how to land. Not all of Captain Australia's landings have been as safe. 18 months ago, he suffered a punctured lung and a broken shoulder blade while working without a net. It's not surprising considering he covers the 18-metre flight travelling at almost 100 kilometres an hour. His current tour with Robinson's Circus, also a new experience for Michael. It's the first time he's been blasted into space under the big top.
Actually, it's better flying indoors. You've got no weather problems or wind problems or anything like that, and you can see the net a lot better. So
there's no chance of you being shot through the roof, through the canopy of the big top?
Oh, there's always a chance of anything. I won't say never.
Michael's death-defying flight is the grand finale to the Robinson Circus, which is playing in a Newcastle suburb. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Every night there's at least one break-in on an inner Newcastle business, with the problem particularly bad over the weekends. It's become a regular occurrence for fingerprint police to have a heavy workload every Monday morning. So far this month, there have been 36 break-ins in the inner city. That's double the total for December, and this month isn't over yet. Mostly the thieves are stealing cash, but equipment and stock are also going missing. Then there's the damage to doors, roofs and windows.
Police are asking business owners to be aware of how serious the problem is in the city. They say that while they're doing all they can to stop the break-ins, there are some businesses which have little, if any, security.
Once inside some of the larger buildings in Hunter Street, the thieves have virtually free rein. They can spend as long as they like inside, mostly undetected.
They're breaking into some of the large commercial premises, and whilst they're doing that, they're also breaking into other premises within that complex. And the security is perhaps a bit, unfortunately, slack in relation to many of these break-ins.
While the problem is bad in Newcastle, it's not confined to the inner city. In Lake Macquarie and in Newcastle suburbs last month, there were 146 commercial break-ins. Past operations by police have managed to curb the number of robberies. Police are now preparing to launch another clampdown. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Being a reporter is never an easy job. A lot of waiting, driving around, and light lunches. But it's made just a little bit easier when you get to talk to a couple of rock stars who've sold more than 40 million albums.
It's fine, you know. People compare us to ABBA. It's like they compare Stefan Edberg to Björn Borg. Whatever, you know. It's no big deal really, and we like them a lot.
But the band has escaped the shadow of ABBA to have the world shine the spotlight on them. Crash Boom Bang is their 5th album, Australia one of the last legs of their year-long tour.
So nice for us to be here this time of the year, because at home it's really, really cold and dark.
It's the best band we've had forever, since we started out, you know. It's really good. So hopefully entertainment, 2 hours of good entertainment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And despite the promoters of the band shouting the show for in Champagne, there'll be no plug for the Roxette concert at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre tomorrow night. Well, back to work.
A notice of improvement was served on both parties only hours before councillors met last night. WorkCover is concerned about a number of safety issues and has given Council and Cleanaway a week to review the bulk pickup system, plagued by problems since it began last August. Cleanaway claims it's losing nearly $5,000 a week and is seeking more than $80,000 compensation for additional costs, as well as another $3,000 a week on top of the negotiated contract to continue the service. An urgent meeting between all parties has been called to sort out some arrangement before next Monday's deadline. It's believed both Council and the company are seeking legal advice. It's expected WorkCover will wait and see if the warning is heeded. If not, hefty fines could be imposed.
Over here. About the effect of moving the centre of gravity up. We talked about moving it forward last time. Let's talk about what happens now. The existing tree preservation order in the urban parts of the Greater Taree City Council area may soon apply to rural property owners. Currently, urban dwellers have to seek council permission to cut or lop a tree, while rural dwellers have no restrictions. This may change in the next few months.
I've already had quite a lot of representations from people in the rural areas saying that they do manage their properties very well, and the last thing they want on top of every other regulation is another council regulation to tell them how and where they can lop their trees on their rural properties, and I believe they have a point.
However, the Mayor says there's a case for tree preservation that property owners should be made aware of. Next month, Council will be conducting a series of workshops in the Taree, Old Bar, Wingham and Hallidays Point areas. It will be a chance to gauge public opinion.
Assess all those opinions, put it together and come up with a report which we'll put to Council and let Council make the final decision. But I think there's some very, very serious questions have to be answered.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
It's the work of all the local bushfire brigades and a whole lot of...
Just make all of you feel very proud to know that you've got...
Fire service on this continent, and indeed from as far...
amount to the Gosford area, an amount of $1.3 million, and the desire to see them well and comprehensively.
Thank you.
Officially open the Mount Penang Bushfire Station. Mr. Ian Graham.
Mr Phillips was in full campaign mode today at Maitland Hospital, joining local MP Peter Blackmore in an inspection of work on the 31 million... announcing $2 million in funding for a linear accelerator for the treatment of cancer patients. No precise date has been set for the installation beyond sometime next year, but Mr Phillips says it will go ahead.
I've never made a promise I can't keep. That one's set in stone. It'll be allocated in the budget. It's supported by the Working Party on Radiotherapy, therefore the profession. The need is quite obvious. It will happen.
It'll bring the number of mega voltage machines at the Martyr to 3. The first one purchased in the 80s with proceeds from a series of NBN telethons. The new linear accelerator will allow an additional 500 courses of treatment a year for residents of the Hunter and northern New South Wales. It should help cut down waiting times considerably. Patients currently facing treatment delays of up to 6 weeks.
Well, waiting times vary according to the clinical condition and the type of treatment people require, but at the moment they're edging up to a level that we don't believe is ideal, and the third linear accelerator will enable us to bring it back down to something that's more clinically appropriate.
Meanwhile, the Minister's visit has brought relief at last for gridlocked ambulance officers at Maitland. Drivers called out on emergencies have found themselves increasingly hemmed in by traffic on the busy New England highway.
250 amateurs will tee off in the Lake Macquarie International Amateur Tournament at Belmont. Many enjoyed a final practice round today. One of those players was Jeff Everett from the Lakes Course in Sydney. His pilgrimage north each year for the event dates back to 1958 and is the only person to have played in every championship.
Well, I like playing golf for a start. I like the golf course. I like the way the tournament's been run. And I get to see a lot of fellas that I haven't seen for, 12 months. So it's a reunion just as well as a game of golf.
Everett plays off one and today went round with one of the world's best amateurs, England's Lee James, who's received invitations to the US and Australian Masters. But the veteran is undaunted by the awesome ability of the likes of James, who is 38 years his junior.
You reckon you might show up a few of these younger fellas?
Oh, I always do.
In contrast, Guy Wall is making his debut at the International and is South Africa's first representative to take part in the tournament. But he does have some strong Aussie ties.
My dad was actually born in Narrabri. The family farm, Wollongabba, is still in Narrabri. My uncle is still farming out there. So coming back to my roots, I think.
The 72-hole championship starts tomorrow and concludes with 36 holes on Sunday.
According to Tony Keating, a 23-year-old inmate at the maximum security jail appeared in Maitland Local Court on Monday. He was appealing against the sentence of one of two convictions. The magistrate upheld the appeal and he was released on bail. By the time prison authorities realised the inmate still had to serve time on the other conviction, the offender had left town.
The last that he was seen was on a train leaving Maitland, and as of today it would appear that he's still at large. I would say they'd be making every endeavour because there's some very blush faces at Maitland Jail.
Claiming the jail is in crisis, Mr Keating has called for an immediate inquiry into the matter.
It's just one of a number of incidents over a number of months now, which tends to draw one into the conclusion that there are major staffing problems. And that's the word coming from inside too, that the staff is that the jail rather is understaffed and there needs to be an increase in manpower.
The absconder is described as not dangerous, but Mr Keating argues the bungle has embarrassed the Department of Corrective Services.
If this happens here on a one-off occurrence, is it happening elsewhere which we don't know about?
Melinda Smith, NBN News. Country music fans throughout Australia were shocked at news the singer had collapsed in the bathroom of a caravan park near Tamworth yesterday morning. Suffering a cerebral hemorrhage, he was rushed to Tamworth Base Hospital, then flown to Newcastle's John Hunter and placed under close observation in intensive care.
He's since been transferred to one of our general wards and he's resting quite comfortably. He is in a serious but stable condition.
The 62-year-old singer is one of the country music industry's biggest sellers. Doctors say they plan to wait until tomorrow before undergoing more tests.
The tests will probably establish if there's going to be a need for surgery. They're being put off until tomorrow to allow any possible swelling to subside.
The hospital has been inundated with calls from fans. Members of the Lindsay family are keeping a close vigil beside the star's bed.
They are exhausted. His wife Roz went away for a little rest, but she does want everybody to know that the family really appreciates all those very nice calls they received, wishing Reg a speedy recovery.